there was a deed restriction on the park that says you can't use it for anything but a park. But what the deed restriction actually said was that if the city ever stopped using it for a park, it would revert back to the grantor, and the grantor was the Durant Carriage Company, which became GM. When GM went bankrupt, that company basically dissolves, right? So it's the same problem with the contamination. GM doesn't exist anymore, so this deed restriction is void because it's not enforceable, because there's no one to receive the trigger, right? The trigger is if it stops being a park, it goes back to that company doesn't exist. Now, as an abundance of caution, we reached out to new GM, which again is completely separated by the bankruptcy process, and we did ask them to verify that they had no claim to the land. And they sent us a letter from the VP of the real estate division and certified it as an affidavit that said, yep, this happens all the time. We have no claim to this land. And that's why the city can sell it. Now you get to the question, should the city sell it? And our view is as we've learned about the history of Oak Park and learned about what it meant to the city in the past, even though it hasn't been used, it hasn't functionally been a park since the 80s, but there are still people who go there, and the biggest group is the Brothers and Sisters of Oak Park. And what that is, it's a collection of friends and families who grew up in the neighborhood that adjoined the park that's underneath what our building is. So GM bought them out in the 80s, demolished all their homes, and built a parking lot. The people that were displaced that used to live there are the group. There's a group of them that are called the Brothers and Sisters of Oak Park, and they've been going back to Oak Park for, I confirmed, it's been about 20 years. So around 2003 or 4. We used the 9/11. It seems to it's a line in the sand that most people can say before or after, and they said it was definitely after 9/11. So it was around that time. And so they have this annual picnic there, and then it's pretty big, like maybe 200, 300 people come, and they have this big party. So when we realized that, and we understood the history of Oak Park and how it used to be Tent City, and there's all these things associated with Buick City, we've been trying to figure out a way to find a win-win where we can do this development with Nanograph, but we can also figure out a way to honor the history. And it's hard to do, but I think we've gotten to a place where we feel we've got a good space. And so what we're talking about doing is not buying the entire park. We're buying most of it. We're buying about 7.5 acres of an 8.5 acre park. We're going to develop it and bring all the jobs and the $200 million investment. So what we would do is we keep this acre, and we want to add some amenities to it. So we're going to add connected walking paths to the 2 buildings. Though we're going to add some parking because there's no parking, and then we'll add some park benches. We're going to keep several of the large mature oak trees. We met with the conservation district to talk about the health of those trees, and we've redesigned it a couple times to preserve those trees. And then we're going to build a pavilion. Right now, the plan is that we'll hold 1 to 2 picnic tables, and that's still in discussion on its final size. And then we're going to add some interpretive signage that will kind of tell the history of Oak Park, so people actually know what it was and what it is. And our hope is that this space will be reactivated. And in particular, there's no neighborhoods anymore that live around here, but it's still a contemplative space, and we think it's going to be a great thing for company picnics, or even the workers for lunches and things like that. And then also the Brothers and Sisters can still, this is big enough because we checked with them, this is about the amount of the park that they actually used for their party. So they're still going to be able to have their party here as well, or their picnic. And we even told them that we would help support that going forward in the future. So this is our current plan. And then what we agreed with the city is the price of the park is $172,000 and some change. And what's going to happen is those funds, because of the ballot resolution, they're going to go into not the general fund but the park fund. And then we have worked with citizens groups and other peoples in the communities to try to find and understand where parks need help. And the goal is that those funds are then going to be used to the city through the Parks Department to reinvest in other parks in the north side of Flint that are active and have active park adopters and active populations around them that use them. And these improvements, we're still getting budgets and stuff, but it's plus or minus somewhere around $80,000 to $100,000 that we're going to do in addition to what we're buying the park for. We're just going to do this ourselves. The other thing that we agreed to with the city to try to make this, we wanted to really make this work, is we've also agreed to an agreement with them that commits us financially to the maintenance of this park for at least the next 20 years. And our goal is to maintain this kind of consistent with the rest of the landscaping for the rest of the project, so that you have it's mowed frequently and it's kind of, it's all pretty consistent. And then the other thing you see on the picture is there's a lot of other trees that we're going to be planting as well. Part of this is required for our project in the zoning buffer, but part of it is just, we're trying to just, clean this up and make it look nice. So our goal is to try to keep as many of the oak trees as we can within the footprint. There's, I think, 2 that are dead that we definitely have to cut down. And we even learned from the conservation district, like there's certain windows that we can do work on the trees, because I guess there's an invasive fungus beetle that can like kill oak trees pretty quickly. So we're trying to take that into account too. And we think that we've gotten to a point where we believe that we've found a way for everybody to win. And yes, part of the vacant park is going to be sold, but our intent is to redevelop it and redevelop it with, respect for the history of the city. And we're excited. We think actually, we would never build a park next to one of our buildings, but hell, that's quite the amenity for our tenants, And so we're excited. We think this park is going to get reactivated. I think it's going to see a lot of use. And I think that with the city's support, and I know that council's pretty divided and there's a lot going on there, but our hope is that we can work with the whole council and see the merits of this plan and bring jobs to the city and really move the city forward.